My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca Jorge, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leymans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly. And I'm very pleased to be back on with the one, the only magnificent tennis brain of Vanch Famani. Vanch, how are you doing?
Really great to be here, Nick. I love doing these. I haven't done WTA Weekly in a long time, but obviously we have two very worthy winners to talk about today, so happy to get into it.
Yeah, we have got a lot of things to talk about, provided the producer does not keep distracting us with the football match that just finished. But anyway, let's get into it. If you are not interested in WTA Finals chat, this is not the show for you, because we're going to be dedicating quite a lot of the show to this. Because starting with Ningbo, the 500 there, the results kind of sent. There we go. I'm not surprised. Sorry to the audio listeners and hearing me go on a tangent. The Ningbo result has sent shockwaves through the WTA Finals race, which was kind of it was whittled down quite quickly, and to three players fighting for two places. Nobody below Rybakina was going to do it. And Rybakina's massively closed the gap by winning in Ningbo. So there's a lot to talk about here with this title for Elena Rybakina, second of the season, second 500 of the year. This is interesting. So I guess before we kind of get into WTA Finals repercussions, Vanch, what has impressed you about Rybakina this week? Because for me, this is a bit of a this was a long time coming. I thought she'd get a title this Asian swing. I didn't expect to be waiting until Ningbo for it. I thought she might steal one of the 1000s, but she seems to have got the job done this week.
Yeah, it was a nice rebound for her. I mean, especially after I think the way sort of the last three big tournaments went for her, like losing in the fourth round to Vondrousova at the US Open, who played a phenomenal match and served really, really well, and just outplayed her in the third set, and then loses a match you wouldn't have expected her loss against Eva Lis, who's a great player, but someone that you thought Rybakina would win against. And then, then she plays Sabalenka, and for the first time in quite a while, Sabalenka was able to get the upper hand in that rivalry quite comfortably in their match. So I thought coming into this, she was going to have a pretty good chance. It was going to be basically between her and Paolini and, Mira for the last three spots. And I thought, okay, maybe hopefully we'll see them all in the semis and it'll be a really fun race. And it still is. But obviously, Rybakina, by beating Paolini as convincingly as she did in that semifinal, and just really kind of taking the racket out of Paolini's hands with her, just how good her serve, how much she outserved her, how much she outreturned her. And, Paolini has obviously had a really good Asian swing so far with Beijing and Wuhan, and started even with the Beijing King Cup by winning that. And then she kind of didn't have as much left in the gas tank for this semi, but nonetheless, Rybakina, the way she was able to kind of take her apart, and just with her blistering ball striking all week. And, there were some tough moments, like she did lose the second set against Yastremska, for example, had a couple of match points, had to regroup really well, won the third. And then today she was down a set against Alexandrova, and Alexandrova has a 3-1 head-to-head against her, and, has had some success in the matchup. So when she won the first set, I thought, okay, she has some momentum going into the second. It's going to be a hard-fought contest from there. And Rybakina, really, all those close games, she came through all of them, and she really kind of made it more decisive than like how close that games actually were, and she only lost 2 games in the last 2 sets. So I thought that was an impressive finish to her second title this year, first since winning Strasbourg. And I think there were definitely some results in the big tournaments that you thought she would be a little further along in the race than she is. So for her expectations, maybe not like her best season, but still, to pick up 2 titles here and come so close, and she has a chance now to qualify for the WTA Finals next week in Tokyo if she wins 2 matches there. So it's I think she's put herself in a good spot now.
Yeah, I mean, does it surprise you that Rybakina, whose headline results from the season include 2 500 titles and 3 1000 semifinals, is suddenly in very strong contention to unseat a player who has won 2 1000 titles from a spot. Like, I think for those who maybe the math doesn't always math there. The player who's just kind of been like not been getting all these headline results and yet is top 8 contender.
Yeah, she's been doing it all through basically quarters and semis at these events rather than a final. And I think I tweeted that she would be the only one in the field to have not made a big final in the 14 big tournaments that happened this year with the 4 majors and 10 1000s to qualify. And it just shows how strong the top 8 and top 10 is. That if Mira Andreeva, she wins 2 1000s in a row in Dubai and Indian Wells, she gets to the quarters of Madrid and Rome and Roland Garros and Wimbledon. And granted, she's not been great since Wimbledon at all, and has been struggling with her form and expectations, emotions on court, stuff like that. So she hasn't played well since Wimbledon. But you still would have thought, given how strong the first half of the year was for Mira, that she would already have qualified or come really, really close to it and maybe would get it. And I think she's opted not to play in Tokyo next week, which I think she's like probably playing the long game as opposed to wanting to do everything possible to qualify, which is fair. But nonetheless, it shows how strong the top 8 and top 10 is. And I guess Rybakina winning this week, I mean, she still has work to do, but it shows you can get to the WTA Finals despite and you can get to many of these things by picking up points in the 500s and through semis and quarters, and just being like super consistent like that can sometimes get the job done over a couple of flashy results and then a few more first round losses. So I guess
surely trophies should decide these things more than consistency, right?
Yeah, I mean I think she'd like to next year in the majors do a little bit better than she did this year. Like, she didn't make a major quarterfinal. I think she obviously lost to Keys, so she was one of the players who Keys went through the gauntlet in Australia. But I think at Roland Garros, Wimbledon, I think you would have expected her to do a little bit better than the third round, given what a great grass court player she is and she's won this title in 2022 and stuff. And so I think in terms of the majors, she would probably hope that next year is a bit better. But outside of that, I guess with the 500s, she's now won 5 500s, I guess, in 2024 and 2025. So she seems to pick up some good top 20, top 10 wins at these tournaments and make runs there. And I guess with the amount of 500s that these women play, like 5 or 6 at least, that are on their schedule, if you win 2 or 3 of them, I mean, you're already in a pretty good spot to close in on the top 10. So yeah, I mean, the fact that number 9 is 4,305 points even is just it just shows how good the top 10 is and how stable it's been this year.
Yeah,
especially
that is
the few names.
Super consistent top 10, and they are class apart from everyone else who's kind of fighting. Well, class apart in consistency anyway. I think behind the top 10, you've got these players who will pop up and really challenge and get a good result. And I was a bit tongue-in-cheek with the question I had, because I do believe that it is far harder to win a professional tennis match than we give credit for. So to consistently win 2 or 3 every tournament you play is actually really, really high level. And that's what makes someone top 10. So I think Rybakina has had a really strong season. It's just crazy when you think about sort of the fact that she's not as decorated compared to the people she's chasing. So let's talk about scenarios here. So Jasmine Paolini qualified as a result of this tournament, and we'll review her tournament in a moment. by reaching the semi-finals and overtaking Mira Andreeva. Mira Andreeva is not playing in Tokyo, so is vulnerable to being overtaken by Rybakina. So it's all on Rybakina coming up in Tokyo. What does Elena Rybakina have to do to qualify for the WTA Finals, and why?
Yeah, so I mean, once Rybakina won today, I mean, this makes her life a little bit easier now. She has to win 2 matches in next week in Tokyo if she wants to qualify. She will have a bye in the early round, so because she's seeded, and so she wins her round of 16 and she wins her quarterfinal, boom, she's in, and Mira is out. But if Rybakina loses one of her first 2 rounds, then Mira will be in. And originally there was some suspicion that maybe Mira would play in Guangzhou WTA 250, but didn't sign up for that and didn't sign up for Tokyo next week. So I guess it's all on Rybakina now.
It would be quite short notice, and she'd need a wild card, which either tournament would give. I don't think she'd be allowed to play Guangzhou though if it's a 250.
Yeah. There's a 250 the same week as the 500. I think you're right. So you have to play the 500 if you're a top 10 player. So I think I think that was not really in the cards. It was more, was she going to play Tokyo when she wasn't in the draw, and the qualifying had already first round had already happened. It was pretty clear okay, this is all going to be about Rybakina, because had she lost today, she would have needed the title in Ningbo, which to go through those 4 rounds there, there'll still be a couple of good players in the top 15 playing. So I thought, okay, if she loses today, it will be harder. But now that she's won today, and it's still 2 more matches, but yeah, she will likely overtake.
So I think it's worth looking at Tokyo now. So it might be worth getting the Tokyo draw up now, and having a look at her potential run. So Rybakina is now the top seed because Paolini withdrew today. So she's still number 2 seed, but she's the highest ranked player in the draw. And it's all going to be paying attention to her. So she has a bye through the first round. She will be playing either Leylah Fernandez or Maria Sakkari in round of 16. Now, that could be interesting if it's Fernandez, because Fernandez is on a run of form, having won Osaka this week, and we'll talk about her run there. But that's a match it feels like she should be able to win, because Sakkari's so in and out. But Fernandez, that's going to depend on how determined Fernandez is, I think.
Yeah, and how quickly she can bounce back from her run in Osaka, which there were a couple of 3-setters there, and obviously she's going to have to make the transition here quickly. But yeah, Fernandez versus Rybakina was one of the best matches of the year in DC this year. It was 3 tie breaks, all really hard fought, and Rybakina actually had a chance to start for a straight set win there, but Fernandez showed a really good fight, came back and won. So I'm curious to see how that will pan out. If it's Sakkari, I think that'll be a little bit easier for Rybakina, given their history and just kind of Sakkari's form kind of all year. I would just like Rybakina's chances even more. But this is still like a tricky opening match. And then I guess if she wins, then potentially Mboko, that was one of the semifinals she lost in Toronto.
Yeah,
she had a match point, and obviously Mboko ended up winning the title. And even Bianca Andreescu beat Rybakina this year in Rome. So, I mean, I know she's not in the best form at all, but that's still someone. And Eva Lees has just beaten her in Beijing. So it's quite actually not a given, really.
Literally, the best person to play is Katie Bolter.
You're right. So I think I would still expect Rybakina to win these matches and get to the semis, but you never know. These players can all show up and maybe potentially capitalize.
Absolutely, yeah. I would agree with your assessment that Mboko is the most likely person to play, and the fact that Rybakina is going to have to go in this kind of redemption arc, this kind of or revenge, to beat these players who maybe held her back. If she'd won those semifinals, back-to-back semifinals, having had match point against Canadians in DC and in Montreal, Fernandez, then Mboko. That's tough. To then have to play them both again in the tournament she needs to perform at it's going to add this fantastic dimension to the story. If it's Bianca Andreescu, we know she's going to make it a fight. Same with Eva Lees. To a extent, same with Katie Bolter. So
Yep.
it's not an easy draw. It's a pretty stacked 500 anyway for Rybakina. So is she going to be the favourite for these matches? Yes. Is there going to be some scar tissue to work through? Maybe. Because a part of me thinks, had she won either of those matches, she would be in, like, she'd already be in the top 8 at this point, and it'd be Mira Andreeva kicking herself. The field would already be set in some ways. Maybe Rybakina would have won Montreal if she'd beaten Mboko. So there was some points left on the table from these players. So I'm loving this sort of, these are the players who've stood in her way, and she's got to get through them again, potentially. Obviously, it could end up being Sakkari and Bolter, but still not easy. You are right. But
and Jean makes a good point about Bolter having some success in Tokyo last year, making the semis, and of course she's also qualified here, so she'll have a couple of matches already under her belt. I think she likes these conditions.
Yeah, she likes these conditions in Tokyo. So are we saying that on paper, Elena Rybakina should qualify for the WTA Finals despite this tough draw?
Yes, I think I would expect her to win both these matches, but like I said, this revenge arc story is very fascinating because of, how the summer went with DC and Canada, and she was playing. That was maybe arguably, along with the French Open and Strasbourg, those are some of the best tournaments Rybakina has played this year. But she just fell a little short in the closing stages of all those matches, and so you wonder now, kind of, with the confidence this week, or if the number of matches maybe that she's played already, having played Beijing and Wuhan and this, if that catches up to her in any way, or if how competitive these matches are. It's going to be on her record with just how well she serves and returns right now, and just the way she's been playing this week. But this is good stuff. This is a good section of the draw right here. It's bottom half.
And of course, you're right. She's played some tough matches this week. It's going to depend on how much she's got on the tank herself. Because it's really tough to go deep in back-to-back tournaments on the WTA, even at 500 level.
Yeah, and she's played quite a hectic schedule this year, 18 plus tournaments, and so it's she's not going to be fresh at all. So I think it'll be interesting for her.
Watch this space. Yeah, I would not be surprised if she could get through. She might be lucky, and Fernandez also have low gas, and I'll get to the one match away, and then I wouldn't be surprised if, especially if it's Mboko, who is probably a lot fresher right now, that ends up being too much, and Mboko gets and breaks some Kazakh hearts.
Yes, indeed.
That Mboko Andreescu match, I'm looking at that going, yes, please, because that just looks like 3-setter all over it.
Yeah, for sure. Mboko hasn't won a set since her Montreal title, but obviously she also had a wrist injury in there, so I don't want to make massive.
Exactly. I think they're playing doubles together this tournament as well, Mboko and Andreescu.
Right, and Andreescu, she. I think last week she beat Valentova in the first round of qualies in Wuhan, and this week Valentova pushed Fernandez in the final of Osaka, which we'll talk about later. So it's going to be.
Okay, so I think this is going to be the main storyline from the Tokyo draw. Is there? I guess it's what else are we going to be watching for in this draw, Vanch?
Well, so I guess Paolini would have been the first seed, right? But she pulled out, which is smart. You want to conserve yourself for the WTA final. She's had a very good stretch here. So I guess Bencic took her place in the draw, if I'm not mistaken. So Bencic is there. Kenin last year made the final, and she's kind of solidified herself as a top 30 player this year. So I wonder if she can. She's going to have some points to defend here. She made a final last year, lost to Qin Wen in the final. So I think, but if she beats, I think Alexandrova is also playing this, and she's pretty much going to be, finish the year in the top 10, which is a great result for her, 31 years of age, to put the season that she's put together here and do so well in all the 500s and, second week of majors. So that's a good story to see if Alexandrova can just kind of continue and keep building more points even for next year. But yeah, also Golubic versus Joint is a fascinating first round match. Maybe I'll see if I can watch that one. But I guess mainly I think it's going to be about Rybakina and the bottom half. Oh, and again we also have Vondrousova and Muhova, and it's
How is
You
that
know,
keeping on
how is
happening?
how is it possible 2 weeks in a row that we get that same early round matchup? But it's hopefully they're both healthy, because when they're both healthy, they're just so good to watch. But
Yeah, I feel like that could be a kind of a low key, like that could end up deciding who wins the tournament if everyone around them runs out of energy.
yeah, like imagine the winner of that Czech duel plays like Bencic in the quarters, and then you have Alexandrova and Kenin in there too, and then you have their whole Rybakina half. Like will be a good finish to the last 500 of the year.
I feel like if Rybakina loses at any point and Alexandrova, it's kind of game on for whoever for pretty much whoever else is left to win it. Sally in the chat is saying that she thinks Bencic pulled out as well. That's the first I've heard of it, if that's the case.
Yeah, I have not heard that. I mean, unless someone already put it on Twitter or somewhere, but I haven't seen that.
No, and I think that would be like really frustrating for the tournament as well, because then who comes? I assume it'd be a lucky loser at this point.
Right.
They're going to move the seeds around again. This draw could be absolute chaos very soon.
Yeah.
So watch this space, I guess. Maybe Bencic will kind of pull out during the tournament or whatever. But yeah, okay. So it's going to be all about Rybakina. You mentioned Alexandrova. I wanted to talk about her this show. I think rather than making everyone repeat themselves later on, let's do that now before we go back to Paolini. Alexandrova, top 10, pretty clear ahead of everybody else, a lot of people who've had some pretty strong seasons, like Clara Towson or players like that. Bencic, is another name in there. I think Alexandrova's breaking top 10 at 31, getting that 500 title in Linz, then losing the next 3 500 finals, but we'll gloss over that. But she took her opportunity in Linz to get herself some decent points there, and she's been so consistent all the way through. I think Alexandrova is one of the low-key kind of best breakthrough stories of the year, but I don't think we're talking a lot about her.
Yeah, she hasn't had sort of like the main, like super flashy results in the big tournaments, kind of like Rybakina, but she's done well in the 500s and winning Linz, and then losing. There's no shame in losing to Iga and Seoul, and losing to Rybakina here, and losing to Iga in that really competitive match in Bad Homburg. So like there've been some good moments for her, like fourth round of Wimbledon, fourth round of Roland Garros. I think obviously the next step is like make a major quarterfinal kind of a thing, like break that duck. But her being seeded, her being a top 10 seed, maybe like she's had some good wins like over Pegula this year, and she's kind of solidified herself as like you said, like further ahead of like that 11 through 15 bunch, with like Towson and Svitolina and like I guess Navarro, Noshkova, like players like that. So it's great to see for her at 31, because she has been kind of knocking on the door, and she has always played the top 10 players really well. But we haven't seen this sort of level of like consistency. Her new floor is like pretty high, and I've just seen like her forehand, for instance, has been really good in some big moments this year. She's been changing direction on it earlier. She's been moving a little bit better in the corners than I've seen from her before. She's kind of seems to be at her like max level of fitness as well. So yeah, she's been really pushing the ones, and she was the last player before Pegula in Wuhan to win a tiebreak over Sabalenka, and she got that win over her in the 7-6 in the third in the Middle East. So right, like she sort of continued her good form ever since, and didn't like start the year really well, losing in the first round of AO, but like since then, she's like from February till now, she's deservedly in the top 10. Like I think she's been one of those players that you're kind of like, oh wow, like always in the fourth round, quarters, always getting to the finals of the 500s. So yeah, it's a good story, I guess.
Jean also reminding us of her beating Sabalenka in Doha, which was a big win for her. Also reminds of the tiebreak stat that you just shared. So that's a big highlight for her. Yeah, this is definitely, without question, the best season of Alexandrova's career. I mean, Did you always think that she had top 10 potential?
I did actually, because of the way that she was playing against the top 10 for someone who's not in it. I thought like, okay, she could be like kind of like, one of those players that if the moment is right and if kind of some things fall her way, I thought she was good enough to maybe sneak in there one for a few months. Like she's been, you talk about like winning 2 or 3 matches every week, like that's been her season basically. Like she's been like winning 2 of every 3 matches that she plays. And I guess if you want to be in the top 10, that's kind of one of the things is like, are you able to do it on more than one occasion? Are you able to do it in the big tournaments? Like she made the semifinal in Doha, for instance. She backed up the Sabalenka win by beating Pegula that week. Like she made 4th round of second week in Roland Garros, Wimbledon, US Open. So I thought like, okay, she's putting herself in these positions time and time again. And, maybe still sometimes struggles with nerves towards the end of some of these matches, but overall, like she's improved her kind of floor level. And that's something I always thought she kind of had in her. Like I always thought, why not push the envelope further? Like even last year, I think she was, or 3 years ago, I think she finished top 20 for the first time, and that's when I thought like, okay, maybe she can go even further. So, but it's nice that it's coming at the age of, what is it, 31, because you don't see WTA players that often having their best season at 30, 31. I mean, obviously Pegula has like been a top player for the last 4 or 5 years. So she's kind of been there since 27, 28. But for Alexandrova to do it the first time at 31 is pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah, that is impressive. Yeah, I think it's worth highlighting how impressive her season's been, how much she's there, and how consistent she's been, and yeah, just improving her base level, as you said. So worth celebrating Alexandrova, because I don't think we'll get another chance to do that, especially now she's pretty much confirmed that she is going to be top 10 with the better movement. I've just seen Sani explaining about why she thought Bencic pulled out. I can see the confusion because, yeah, Bencic was supposed to play Andreescu, and then now Andreescu's playing on Boko. The reason for that is because Paolini pulled out, so they moved Bencic into Paolini's place. So Bencic is definitely playing. It was Paolini who pulled out and caused the draw to be shuffled. She wasn't replaced with a lucky loser. So that's what's going on there. Speaking of Paolini pulling out, she's pulled out of Tokyo because she has qualified for the WTA Finals. She doesn't need to play. She obviously did that because she moved ahead of Mira, couldn't be overtaken by both Mira and Rybakina. So, yeah, Jasmine Paolini, 2nd consecutive year at the WTA Finals, backs up what was a great season for her. And there were some people who were wondering, what she would do. And I mean, I would say that 1000 title in Rome and followed up by a couple of other deep runs in 1000s has kind of showed that she is legitimately a top 8 player. And yeah, maybe talk to me about sort of, your thoughts on Paolini's week and then also her season.
Yeah, I thought it was another good week because she didn't often play her best tennis, but the way she came through against Bencic really impressed me. Like that match was very physical, 3 hours and 30 minutes, really high quality, and considering the tough conditions that they were playing in, I thought it was very, very impressive that Paolini was able to survive Bencic serving for the match in the second set up 7-5, 5-4, and then they had 2 like absolute marathon games where she had to save so many break points and her first serve was not working in that game. And she came through and, she's such a battler, and the way she was competing in that match and finding solutions because Bencic was playing well. She was taking the ball super early like she can, redirecting shots with her backhand on the line, like finding angles on the serve. Like she was playing this match with some of the best tennis I'd seen from Bencic in a long time too. So for Paolini to just get over the hump and win that was such a crucial win for her, just to put herself in that position in the semis. She didn't have as much left in the tank, but like those break points that she saved at 5-all in the second set, oh my goodness, I think there were 6 of them, and she just came up with the goods on like most of those break points, and like just clutch play. And she even hit an ace on one of them, and it was when she was getting the first serve in, it was causing Bencic issues, and she was just moving so well on those points, like just spreading the court so well with her angles, and then the power, which I think people really underrate, is like just the way she's able to explode into her shots, especially on the forehand, and kind of how well she defends and just makes you play a really high level to beat her. And so I think her coming through this week was just another sign of like the best season that she could have after last year, because she didn't bring it in the majors this year, which she I think will be a little disappointed how like Wimbledon went and how that part of the season went with, like, but really if you take out Wimbledon and Montreal, she's been there like basically every week since Miami. Like, I think about the fact she made Miami semifinal. She beat Coco in Stuttgart and lost a tough match to Sabalenka there, and then she wins Rome. She beats Goff in that final again, and she then makes the finals of Cincinnati, and she beats Goff there again, like third time, and and then U.S. Open she loses in round 3 to Vondrousova, but like after that the Asian swing was so good for her. Like Beijing, she pushed Anisimova harder than any other player did, and then Wuhan was another great result with the Swiatek win for the first time in 7 tries. So, like, I think that Swiatek win and then winning this match in Bencic, both quarterfinal matches 2 weeks in a row, that's really what's gotten her here, because matches like that, when you're feeling the ball really well, like she was against Iga, which I think was the best match she's played in her career so far, and this match right here where she was not playing her best, but she found a way to win, those two is going to be the reason why I think she's qualified already. So,
yeah, she locked in, and you can see when she's locked in that she fights and she won't give up until the last ball is dropped, either in her favor or against. And I agree with you. Like that Iga win was critical to get those big points to get her up there, and then like that Bencic when she was fighting for that WTA Finals place, literally, because otherwise this would still be going into Tokyo and she would still be a factor there. She would have to play it, and there'd be even more questions around what was going to happen, and the pressure would really be on to kind of perform, because she would literally have Rybakina breathing down her neck, so as well as trying to get past Miller. So the fact that I think she's fought really well to get herself into this position. I think a lot of it has got to be down to the boost that she would have got from Italy winning the Beijing King Cup. I think the boost players get from that is underappreciated. And
she played really well in the final against Pagula there, by the way. Like, to reverse that head-to-head as well, down 0-5 there. I mean, it was like, second to the Swiatek win, some of the best tennis she's played.
Are we just basically saying this is the best period of play in Paolini's career right now?
Yeah, I mean, like really since Rome, like I said, if you take out Wimbledon and you take out the Montreal loss to Ito, like aside from that, she's been there every week, and that's what you got to do if you want to be in the top 8. And she's backed it up so well, and just like the personality that she brings on the court when she's fighting in all these matches, and just how positive she stays. Sarah Irani in the box, like just pumping her up, coaching her. Like, I really love the dynamic of watching Paolini trying to solve these top players this year, because the whole knock on Paolini was like, oh, she can't really beat top players. Her draws fell apart last year in the majors. Well, guess what? This year she has beaten a lot of top players, and she has proven it. And she's just taken a different route instead of major finals. She's had better week to week consistency this year than last year. So she showed she can do it both ways 2 years in a row. So she's very legit, and I'm really fascinated to see what group she lands in, because I do think she has an outside chance, doing really well there and getting out of her group and doing some damage, and she's very capable of doing it in faster hard courts. So
yeah,
I'm excited for that.
We're saying Paolini. I mean, you could say that for the whole field once we know who it is, but Paolini legitimate contender to win the WTA Finals.
Yeah, like I don't think I would have her in my top 3, like just because Sabalenka, Iga, like Anisimova as well, and Coco, I'd put her like maybe right behind those players, but she's right in there. Like, it's and with the round robin format, like anything can happen really, and you sometimes just need to win one match, or you need to you can lose one and win 2. Like it's very possible if she on the right day she can beat these players. So I think Jean is absolutely right. Like, nothing beats the 2 Slam finals, but in terms of consistency week to week, this is the season for Jasmine. And doing it in your sophomore year is harder than doing it once. So I think it's good. And yeah, that Bencic Paolini match was one of the best matches I've seen all year outside of the slams. Like it was, I could not get my eyes off of it. It was really good tennis.
Are you and Gene the same person?
No, but I mean he's been writing some really good comments. He also mentioned the 6 break points. So I guess he's kind of he's been reading my mind today. So that's good. Yeah.
So would you say then that Paolini Bencic was match of the week for the WTA?
I think so. I think it was the best match I saw all week from start to finish.
Yeah,
it was really compelling, and
I did watch that match. I thought it was a thriller.
Yeah, there were 13 breaks of serve, but you didn't know which way it was going to go. And the end of the sets in all three, there were twists, and it was a very important match for both players, especially Jasmine. So the fact that she won this, like, she will feel really good about the fact, even though she didn't, she wasn't her freshest physically for that semifinal, and you have to credit Rybakina for how well she played there. But like, take nothing away from that. Like, there's no shame in losing that semifinal after battling 3.5 hours and less than 24 hours later. So it's that was the match of the week, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it was so good. It's such a battle, and it had huge repercussions. And yeah, as you say, no surprise she probably didn't have a lot of gas against Rybakina. But also Rybakina was playing really, really well this week, and hitting her sweet spots when it counted. Let's talk about the other competitor.
Oh, really quickly, Jake is asking about Alexandrova game-wise. So a couple of things I've seen is I think she's taking her forehand down the line much earlier in points, and she's being way more aggressive on that shot. And also, I think the reason she's able to do that, she's improved her movement, her side-to-side movement, especially, 2 balls in the corners and recovering from them. It's definitely improved quite a bit. Like, she's improved her fitness. She's being able to stay in points a little bit longer against these top players and then pulling the trigger at the right moment. And that's because she's worked hard on her fitness. And also, I think her new coach at the start of the year, I think Tursunov helping her at the start of the year was crucial. Like, he really was able to get her to start believing mentally in some of the really big moments. So I think she's always kind of had the top end power, but now when she's put it all together with the improved movement and more clarity in her game, it's resulted in some really good weeks, really good consistency. So,
yeah. Dmitry Tursunov's showing himself to be a good coach consistently at the moment. Remember him doing a good job with Raducanu as well. Well remembered, Sally. Yeah, Bencic did serve for the match at 5-4 as well. So yeah, that was extra drama there. Right, let's talk about the other WTA Finals contender, because we've talked about Rybakina, we've talked about Paolini. Mira Andreeva this week had a good chance to solidify her place, loses from a setup against Xu Lin, who isn't a bad player on her day. Decided to come back on the radar a bit after a decent season a couple of years ago. But yeah, it does feel like since maybe even Wimbledon, Andreeva's season has kind of fizzled out a bit, and not making WTA finals after winning back-to-back 1000s earlier in the season and looking like she was going to be one of the leading challengers to the Iga, Arena, Coco group at the top. Maybe it was a bit too soon to say that, and maybe I'm not saying it will never happen because she's 18, and I'm interested to see what 19-year-old Mira Andreeva does, because she will be better. To answer Jake's question, Andreeva is currently 8th, was overtaken by Paolini as a result of Paolini making the semis in Ningbo. I do feel like her not making the WTA finals is reflective of how things have kind of stuttered a bit since kind of the highs of the first half of the season.
Yeah, it's really been since Wimbledon that it's been difficult to watch her on court deal with the expectations around her. But I will say, like, for me, it's really the last 3 tournaments that I've been feeling like, okay, like, this is a little bit worrying. Like the last 2, Cartel in Beijing, in some tight moments, I saw there were a lot of double faults in some crucial moments, kind of a lot of like rushing in between points, just kind of like, you would see her crying on the court, which isn't really a great sign. I think the times of relationship which was working really well at the start of the year with Conchita Martinez, who is a really good coach, really good ex-player, and they just seem to gel so well. But there's times where she's kind of external factors. Like, she's a teenager. We have to remember that she's only 18, and this is the first time she's played a full season like this, from start to finish, being a contender like the way she's been. So I do think it's still early to kind of panic, but at the same time, it is kind of signs that there are some things in her game that do break down under pressure, like the second serve, and I guess the forehand as well. And so she's been struggling to bounce back from those tough games, and I think that's been really hard to watch. Is just kind of seeing her, just go through the motions and not really put those disappointments behind her, and just sulking through them, and just kind of not being able to put tough points that she's lost behind her, and have that bleed into the next service game, next return game. And she's definitely struggling a lot mentally right now. So I hope things flip around for her, because I mean, obviously how well she was playing in the first half of the year, I really thought she was going to make the finals. But the match against Julin, she was up a set and a break twice in the second set, and she just got really negative, even when she was ahead in the score. And I just thought, you were leading here, you were playing good tennis. Keep that positive energy. You will probably find a way to break back again. And I just think she's not been able to find that composure yet. And so I hope that she's a little easier on herself in those moments, and hopefully with a good off season, maybe she just burned out, and she just needs a bit of a breather, and just needs to kind of step away from the game for a little bit, and live a normal life for a couple of weeks and then come back. But I think at this point, I think she's a little scared to even try for the WTA finals, because she feels like, on the one hand, it could be a really good thing for her. It would just totally loosen up the pressure if she were to get in, and no one would really expect her to win any matches there the way she's been playing. And so I think that could actually help her. And the other thing would be that, though, that her game right now is in a place where she has to iron out those kinks. And so I do wonder if that is getting to her. I will say the US Open result and the early loss that she had, I think it was to Kessler in Montreal, she did hurt her ankle there. So I do wonder if she was physically compromised a little bit coming into the US Open, because she did roll it, and she pulled out of Cincinnati with it. So she didn't get the matches, she didn't get a whole lot of match play leading up to the Open. And then she just played, a really on fire Taylor Townsend, who plays different to most players on the WTA. So I cut her some slack for that result and the Montreal one. And, but the last two, especially the ones to Siegelman and Zhu, where she's had so many chances to win, and she's been up a set and a break in both of them. I thought for sure she's definitely going through the tough time right now. But I still don't really have much doubt that she can bounce back next year. And, she's going to have a lot of points to defend in the first half. But there's she's very capable, though.
She should still be top 20, even if she lost the points from Dubai and Indian Wells. I think I'm seeing already a lot of chat in the comments about Miller, and I think from what you're saying, I think she is dealing with increased expectations on herself, because everyone's been talking about her as the next big thing, potential slam winner. Definitely one of the most talented players on the tour right now. Her tennis IQ is off the charts when it's working, when her head's in the game. And maybe she's dealing with the expectations. Maybe it's something else we don't even know about that's bothering her and upsetting her and sending her off keel in matches. So I think she's I think there's just probably stuff we don't really know about, as you say. What was the extent of physical problems? She's like a rough patch. I think that's a fact. Why? I don't think we know 100%. Expectations, based on what she said, might be the most likely thing. The expectation she has for herself, and it's about that reset of, okay, she's still developing. She's still she's 18, going on 19. The only way is up, but she can't necessarily always succeed with her game the way it is. That being said, I think her game is underrated because she's got a lot of great tools. we're talking about sort of panic mode and whatever else. I think it's like, oh my word, is Miller never going to fulfill her potential? Is that what we're worried about?
Not so much, not for me anyway. I'm not so much worried about her like long term.
No.
It's more so just like, okay, like this is the maybe we perhaps underestimated the kind of backing up the really good results. I do think the match that she played at Roland Garros in the quarterfinals, that was the first time that she's really had to deal with a crowd like that against Boisson. So the way the kind of the dealing with the French crowd for the first time, which can be a unique experience on its own, playing a hometown person like Boisson, who was just on such a run and was just getting all that support. And I do think like that the way she fell apart in that match, that was the first real sign for me this year where I was like, okay, so she still has this like learning curve to go through that most players go through. And I thought actually Wimbledon went pretty well for her, considering she didn't drop a set, and then she lost 2 very tight tie breaks to Bencic, and I didn't think she played poorly in them. So
I thought she played great at Wimbledon, which is why we're going like a lot of people are using the RG as like, oh, this is where everything went wrong. And I'm like, no, she played great in Wimbledon. It's like RG never happened.
Right, like the match against Emma Navarro was some of the best tennis I've seen her play in the fourth round. So, yeah, like I don't think this is. And we do have to remember this is end of the season, Asian swing. Like, there's not that much you can draw from this in terms of like long-term panic. So I wouldn't be too concerned, and maybe she could use the extra bit of weeks in the off season, and I think it would be good for her. Maybe it could be a blessing in disguise if Rybakina qualifies instead of her, and it's
although
she is only 18, she's gonna have many more chances. So
yeah, I mean, we say she's only 18. There are people out there who say that's not enough of an excuse, particularly with the way she handles herself on court. We're seeing that in chat. Does age excuse these kind of things?
A little bit. I mean, I would say once you're in your 3rd or 4th year on the tour, at that point, if it's happening over and over, it's definitely something she has to address, because you do need to have short-term memory in tennis. You do need to be able to bounce back from losing tough games and tough points and not having it bleed over. So there have been moments where she has behaved her age and acted like a teenager, and then there have been other moments where she shows tremendous amount of poise and played like someone who's been on the tour for 10 plus years. There were many stressful moments that she went through in Indian Wells, in Dubai, but the difference in those matches was she was playing all top players, and she had nothing to. She had only to gain from those matches. So now she's playing against players who are great counterpunchers who defend really well, and Julien, Sone Cartel, and players like that who are more crafty, who make her generate all the pace on her own, and she has to come up with the goods, and she has to come through the finish line in these matches, and it's expected to be on her racket. So I think that's part of the growth mindset thing that you need to have in pro tennis.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is something that she and Conchita can work to. I think they're already trying to, but it's just it's probably just tough for her to put it in practice when mostly everyone is expecting nothing but semis and finals and quarters and titles. So she's had a great record against the top players, right? I think she's already had 10 top 10 wins, and she's already beaten Iga twice and Sabalenka twice, and
which is why potentially having her at the finals would be really, really cool. Because she would it'd be her recent form that would make me think, she'd be the least likely to win the tournament. But yeah, do you see somewhat of a similar pattern, like Cartel, Siegemund, and Zhu? Like, these are players who make you like really earn it. Like they're just gonna get down dirty. They're gonna grind. They're gonna be like, Siegemund using the slice and just making like Andreeva generate all of her pace on the forehand, which is not something she's super comfortable with. Like, I remember her, struggling even in early rounds against, like players that you would have thought like on paper, like, oh, this should be a good matchup for her, but actually like these are tricky opponents for her. Those like counter punchers and grinders. Do you think? And this is someone, I guess, someone who's had an attempt at playing. I'm asking you, someone who's attempts to play junior tennis. Admittedly, it was men's side, not women's. But do you think that ability to generate pace is always going to be is always going to be a problem for her, or is that something that she can legitimately physically grow into?
I think the physicality is going to be big in that. Like, she's already done that with her serve. Like, for instance, she serves much bigger than she did last year, and she's improved that part of the game. So I do think like her just growth, like in terms of her size and her strength, has already gotten there. But it's more so like, I think there's some deceleration happening on the forehand when she has a lot of time on the ball and she's having to create off of it, or it's like a really low ball that she doesn't have much pace to work with. Because what she's really good at is when she's having to absorb pace, like coming right at her quickly, and she's changing directions really well, like with the backhand on the line, and she has great anticipation, and she has great feel, like for the way she manipulates shots. She can use drop shots and slices, and she can lure you forward. Like, she does have great IQ in that sense. Like, how many times have you seen her hit like a backhand slice and then a lob on the next point? Like, she's very good at reading those type of plays. But it's like when she has to hit 30, 40, 50 shots in a row in slow conditions against players who just get every ball back, like players like Julin, Jessica Buzis Moniro, like, players like who don't have the kind of weapons that a lot of the top players have, but they just make you earn it. And those are the kind of opponents that I think Mira's going to have to, maybe just go for. She needs to maintain that same level of patience and ability to mix things up like she's really good at. But I do think like most of it is between the years, because I have seen her just fall apart and it have nothing to do with her ground strokes, and it just be a totally mental thing. So I do wonder if that's just going to come with.
Yeah. Because I would think Andreeva, who's someone who's very comfortable on clay, and we've seen it before. Like, I remember seeing her really grinding with Azarenka one French Open. Like, she can do it. She's just got to hold her nerve to do it. Easier said than done, because we've never
been in
done it.
positions to win these matches, but then she's kind of forgotten what got her into those places. And she's not been able to. Yeah, like I do think the serve is a problem right now at the moment, but I think they'll fix that. Like, I do think the second serve and the amount of double faults we have been seeing, like somewhere upwards of 12 to 17 double faults in some of these matches. So that has gone for her, but I do think largely just her demeanor on the court and her being so hard on herself. It's
This is the biggest issue. Yeah.
I think it's more that than her game, actually.
Not something we need to hold her accountable for, because it's none of our business. But something it's something to point out, and she'll deal with it in her own way, in her own time, effectively. Because you're right, there is a pattern there, but saying someone needs to fix something like that is easier said than done. So let's see what she does. Off season will probably help a lot as well to regroup, or maybe coming into the WTA Finals as a massive underdog. If Rybakina doesn't get to the semis in Tokyo, will change that mindset, because she's going to go in and she's going to go, right, she's got nothing to lose at that point. So we will see there with Mira Andreeva. It's 53 minutes on the clock, so let's move on to Osaka. Not Naomi Osaka, but although she was playing this week, has ended her season, retiring, like pulling out before the quarterfinals in Osaka, joining a long list of players such as Emma Raducanu and Elena Svitolina and others who have now ended their season. Not much more to gain at this point, not surprised. The champion in Osaka was Leylah Fernandez, second title of the year after winning in DC. And I thought this was on the cards, given she had, she'd had that really good match with Goff in Wuhan. I think she'd had a really good match against the top player in Beijing, but I forget which one. I felt like Fernandez was feeling good, and this run showed that, because she won the title and keeping herself very much in that sort of top 30 mix. I don't know if this is the most trophies she's won in a year, but that's got to be good for her. So yeah, Vanch, thoughts on Leylah Fernandez run to the Osaka title?
Yeah, I was definitely impressed by the way that she held up physically and also just how she played in the semis. Because I thought that match against Kirstea could be one of those banana skin type matches. Like you've had a good week, you've made the semis here, but now people are really expecting you to win the title. But Kirstea is one of those players who's been there, done it, and he was playing some good tennis. And Kirstea had 3-1 in the third set and was playing really well. She had momentum. She had won the second set. She was serving to go up 4-1, and that's when I saw Fernandez play some of her best tennis with her back against the wall and win 5 of those last 6 games. And I thought she was serving really well all week. Definitely been an improvement in her serve. The second part of this season, it was a really big weapon for her in DC when she went all the way and won the title. And the way she was opening up the court with angles, just moving great. Like I think she was not being so stubborn as just always staying on top of the baseline. She was willing to move back a little bit and defend. And I think she becomes a really good player when she does that because she's so fast. She has really good court. She has really good court coverage when she utilizes it. And then when was the right moment to attack? She pulled the backhand line, or she gave herself a lot of margin on her forehands and wasn't trying to be overly ambitious with them. And I felt like she turned that match around against Kirstea in a really impressive way. And that honestly, that for me, that was the moment of the week for her because yeah, she did have to battle in the final against a talented teenager, but she won. And that's always tough when you win the first set 6-love, and then you have to you find yourself in the third set having to close out a title again. But she she dealt with that situation really well and didn't panic after losing that second set, which she could have. And so it's a good result for her to win 2 titles this year and get to I think 21 in the race now.
Wow.
And she finished 2021. I think that was her best finish of the year. She finished 24th. At one point, her career high was 13, and that was after the U.S. Open. So it's yeah, like this would be her best season, maybe. Actually, this would be her best season since 2022 U.S. Open run.
Wow.
So yeah, like it's sometimes we forget like she's won 5 titles now and 2 of them this year. So she has kind of carried on as this player in between 15 and 30 in the world the last couple 2 or 3 seasons. And
Yeah.
the second half of it has been positive, I think.
Yeah, this feels like her best season since that 2021 US Open. It feels like she's been kind of there or thereabouts, and then getting these 2 titles, particularly that one in DC, which I think was a big win for her, especially the way she beat Rybakina. And yeah, this week really capitalized on her form. As you say, looked good. I'm a huge Fernandez fan. I love watching her play, and I love the energy she brings, the fight. And it's great to see that when it comes through. So we'll see how much that carries her into next week. Top 20 might be a stretch to finish the year in. You never know, but it might be a bit of a tough one there. But yeah, good result for Leylah Fernandez, I would say. And I know we're already like spending 5 minutes on her, but definitely worth the time. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does as a seed more regularly next year in Grand Slams and 1000s, and seeing like how far she can get if she can regularly make sort of third round of these events, not having to worry about top players as often. And yeah, absolutely pushing Goff and Osaka, as you're saying. So yeah, she's played some of the best matches this season, Fernandez. You talked about her talented opponent, Teresa Valentova, 18 years old. Has popped up a couple of times this year. Obviously, she had a great match against. I thought she had herself one against Goff at Roland Garros, and then she beat someone at the US Open. She had a good match. She beat Bronzetti at the US Open.
Yeah, I think lost to Rybakina in the second round, maybe. Yeah.
Lost to Rybakina in the second round. So talk to me about Teresa Valentova and what's exciting you about her game and her potential.
Yeah, just like all the other Czechs, she has a pretty smooth backhand. It's very like, the easy power off both wings. I like the way she definitely like has a pretty good serve. The way she can set herself up with ground strokes right off the bat and just take the racket out of your hand. She definitely like did pretty well in terms of like what was the match that she played earlier this week that impressed me? She played Elise Mertens, was like a bona fide top 25 player. And she just took her apart. It just overpowered her. Like outserved her, like just played more fearless, just seemed to always have the first strike. And so that impressed me. Was yeah, I mean, she beat Iala and Martins, and then I thought, okay, like maybe Danilovic will be a trickier opponent because lefty, has been, is more seasoned to playing these type of players earlier in tournaments. And I thought, okay, maybe she would get, maybe her run would end there. But she came back from a set down and beat her, and she just kept it going. The Christian match was she had to come back from a set down, but from 4-all in the second against Christian to the end of that match, she was by far the better player. And so I thought coming into this, I thought coming into the final, I expected Leylah to win, just because I felt like just the experience of having been in way more finals, and also just how it felt like Leylah was playing a level up for many of these players. So I thought that she would come through. But the fact that she lost the first set 6-love and then came back and won the second, and even served for it at 5-4, but she rebounded really quickly, like didn't get too upset, and then came back and broke again and served it out. And she also made a really good fight of the third, because she was down 4-1, break points for 5-1. She comes back, holds, and she breaks Leylah serving at 4-2, and she makes it 4-3, and she had some chances to even make it 4-all, but Fernandez hit a couple of really good returns and then closed out the match. But honestly, it was such a great week at that point for the 18-year-old, and she's someone we're going to be talking about, like, definitely, like, after Linda Noshkova. She's probably the most talented Czech, but because Czech tennis just seems to be producing players like every single week, it just seems like maybe there's even more coming in the pipeline. But she's another one of them.
She's got great fight. I love her fight. I love the way she celebrated after beating Jack and Christian in the semis. I love how she's just not bothered by playing top players, and I think if she continues to show that assertiveness on the court in the way that she plays, then she's just going to keep growing and growing, and she's going to be joining this group of very exciting talents coming through, along with Meda Andreeva and Vicky Mboko, the kind of on that list in there. So yeah, Valentova, hyped for a bit, solid top 100 player now. We're going to be hearing a lot more from her. I think we're definitely going to be talking about again on future episodes of WTA Weekly. So I'm completely with you there, Vanch. Worth talking about. Right, I think we're going to hit the home stretch now. So we have gone through all the WTA Finals permutations, all the contenders there. We've looked at Fernandez and Valentova from Osaka, celebrated some other success with Alexandrova. We've already done our Tokyo preview. Now let's talk about, very quickly, Guangzhou, the 250, which Jessica Buzash-Monero is the top seed. So we're already lacking top 40 players in it. For those who are interested, Alex Ayala is playing. Had a quick skim through the draw. But yeah, what stories should we keep an eye out for from the Guangzhou draw, Vanch?
Someone who I thought picked up some good form this week was Tomljanovic, and she's still in that search for a first WTA title. So
we're going optimism here.
Somebody. Yeah, I started to get a little more optimistic, but then Rybakina just totally took her apart, which was another impressive Rybakina win, 2-0 in the quarters. But yeah, she plays Alicia Parks in the first round, and the winner of that could play Katie McNally. Who's this Monero? I'm just going through the draw right now. But okay, actually, so I'll tell you, like, Ann Lee has been having a good year. She made the 4th round of the US Open. She's like kind of back in the top 60, top 50, and she's making her way back after injuries. There's a lot of players that we enjoy watching in the first week of majors. Like, they're all in this draw, like players like Perry and Osorio and Bronzetti and Cocciaretto and Xinyu Wang. So honestly, this is like really up for grabs. But I like the way Tomljanovic is trending. I like the way that Ann Lee is trending. I think Katie McNally is trending well too this season. So like a lot of players can win this. Obviously, Buzash Monero is kind of like the solid pick here, but there's a lot of players who can who can win this title and go all the way. Like Zhang Shuai has been playing some good tennis. Yeah, honestly, like this is totally up for grabs.
Guangzhou looks like it's going to be the fun tournament. I love it. All the players we love watching in the first rounds of slams involved, and they're all going to be fighting each other. So that's going to be really exciting.
All the players who also love to hit slices, like Tatiana Maria, Diane Perry, who else? Camilo Osorio, like players like that I really enjoy watching because they just mix it up. Katie McNally as well. They got great slice backhands and had a good mix.
This might be the week to celebrate the slice. There's a lot of things to celebrate this week, including various different winners from across tennis, men's tennis, women's tennis, Premier League football. We will be celebrating the women's tennis next week. Tune in for our Tokyo review next week. We will know 100% who the top 8 in the WTA Finals will be and whether it will include Milan Andreeva or Elena Rybakina. I'm excited to break all that down. Vanch, thank you so much for coming on this week to break down, well, all the permutations and all the stories that have been building up over this season and highlighted themselves this week. Great to hear your insight. Thanks for coming on, Vanch.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, and it was a lot of fun talking about the permutations of the WTA Finals and all the results and what they mean and who's trending up and who we should keep an eye out for. So, good stuff.
All good stuff. We hope you thought it was good stuff. We'd love to see all the action in the live chat today. Drop us a comment with your thoughts on any of these things on YouTube. Listen to the podcast on audio, then give us a review there. So let us know what you think. Always great talking tennis with everybody, not just any co-hosts we've got. But yeah, ATP Weekly is on in a couple of hours. It's about an hour and 45 minutes from now for those who are watching live. So please tune back in to watch Jack and Fergus go over the results from Stockholm, Brussels, and Almaty, and celebrating the return of Daniel Medvedev to winning trophies. And tune back in next week for WTA Weekly, where we'll look at, as I said, everything that's happened in Tokyo to start looking ahead to the WTA Finals. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Please subscribe if you're new. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.